Hello. So, when I was getting started, I really had no idea. I didn't have someone to show me how to do a lot of things. And some of them were maybe the most basic things, like how to mount a softbox. I didn't know what that means when I was getting started. I knew I wanted something, which was called a softbox, and I knew I needed a light, a studio light. But beyond that, I just knew I had a need. I didn't know kind of what the technical side of it was. And so I remember going to, I want to say Calumet in Boston, and saying I want to get a kit of studio lights. And they said, okay, great. And so I said, all right, now that you have that, I'm like, I know I want one of those boxes, soft boxes. And they said, okay, but you need to have the appropriate speed ring. I said, what the heck is a speed ring? I have no idea what that means. And with the speed ring, you need to have the right speed ring insert for your light. And I was like, all right, now I'm way out of my depth. So what does all that mean? I'm going to show you. I'm going to show you very simply, because I'm about to do this anyway. This is a softbox. The softbox is composed of like tent rods and a fabric that goes over the front, and then a reflective interior. Here, this is what mounts to your light. There are two components to this piece. There's an outer component that attaches to the rods that holds the exterior fabric, and then there's this interior component which is called the speed ring insert, that you can take in and out, and it's an adapter in effect. It's going to adapt a lot of different speed rings, and speed ring is this exterior piece that attaches to the poles, to a lot of different lights, because different lights use different modifier or different connections. I'm also testing out a new lens, so this is kind of handy for me. I just got a lens in today, which is a very nice lens. Oh, I don't know how to do this right now. What have I done? So this is a speed ring, and this is a speed ring insert. This is the part that attaches to your softbox that holds the poles, and this is the part that attaches to your light. Depending on the light you have, it will have a different connector, and that's why you have different inserts. So you can use the same softboxes on different lights. It's just an adapter system, this whole thing. This one has some washers and some screws. The washers allow it to rotate freely, so once it's on there, it isn't in a fixed, rigid position. You can actually rotate the softbox on the light. Really cheap inserts may lack these little nylon washer kind of things. They're handy to have. It's not really critical, but they're certainly handy to have. So now all I'm doing is screwing on, and all I've done is I've sandwiched the insert between two washers. I let one washer sit on the bottom already in there on top of the screw, and then I put in the insert. Now I'm just putting the washer in and then a screw on top of our nut on top of that. Now that is mounted, still freely rotates. Not super smooth, but that has to do with the amount of friction they have on it, and I can actually probably loosen these slightly. There you go. So, speed ring. Now we're halfway there. I've already inserted the poles, but basically the poles will have either a channel or just a little kind of loop at the end on the inside. They're 4 poles. It's just like putting together something which is kind of like a tent. I think there are a lot of different methods for doing this. I don't claim to be the fastest by a stretch. I think people who do this all day long are going to be faster than I am. But you put on opposite sides first. Then once the opposite sides are in, it's very easy to put in the next 2 sides. And boom. There we go. So this obviously has a piece of fabric that goes over here. It just uses hook and loop or Velcro. And similarly, it has diffusion, which is held in by Velcro on the outside as well. This is a particularly nice softbox to my mind. It's a licensed copy of the Plume wafer. It's very shallow, meaning it's not particularly deep, but has a wonderful light spread. And so the other thing that it has that I think is fantastic is, so this is the front diffusion material. On most softboxes of any quality, there will be an internal baffle. But we're putting a circle into a rectangle. And so the center, especially because it's elongated, on the kind of the center square area of it is going to have a lot of light. But then when you get to the extremities at the longest portion, the light takes longer to reach there. It's farther away. And therefore, you could have a hot spot in the middle and less light at the top and bottom. Well, the diffusion of this style of the Plume and then the clones of the Plume, hopefully you can see, it actually has a radiating pattern so that it's thicker in the middle, radiating to thinnest on the outside, and that helps alleviate that center hotspot. I think it's a brilliant design. For me, I love that it gives a very even light across it. So, anyway, long story short, hopefully I haven't been rustling too much. This is how you put together a softbox. I guess I can do the last step just so you see it. All right, so back diffusion or reflection. Very simple. And you know what, there very well may be an up and down to this, but it's just working quick. Oftentimes if you look in the panels, you'll see an access point. And so this is just so you can stick your hand in and get access to a light one way or another once you have the diffusion on the front. Because once the diffusion is on the front, it's all a little inaccessible. All right, so now the way this mounts, I'm going to take the internal baffle. As often as not, they all use something similar to this, which is, say, some kind of elastic band and a little button kind of connector. Interior baffle in. The way these are designed, you'll notice that it's a wide band of Velcro or hook and loop material. And the reason for that is not because you're trying to, I don't know, have some abstract like you can be really sloppy and put it on. The reason is that you're going to put the diffusion as close to the inside as you can, allowing for you to later add an egg crate grid on top of it. The egg crate grid is probably going to be a much wider strip of material, and so it's going to need a lot wider area to sit on. And so it's easiest, like many things, just put the corners in and then stretch across. Corners in, stretch across. It's not critical that you're wrinkle-free. It's really more critical that you don't have gaps. So just make sure that if it's feeling like the material is bunching up, that it's not creating an open hole. Get it all pressed down. That way you don't accidentally have a highlight or a hot area of light. And that's that. This is it. This is a fully structured softbox. And then depending on your light, it will lock into your light. There's usually just a latch or something like that, and pretty easy to deal with. If you have trouble with that, I don't think you'll have trouble with that. It's pretty straightforward, but this is just going to go on. Then the reverse is true. You want to take it down, tear this off. Easiest to pop off one side or another. If you're having a lot of difficulty with doing it. Like this, these poles are very flexible, made my life really easy, made me look like I know what I'm doing. If you're having real trouble, if you face it down, you can use if you're having trouble getting after the first two, if you put it face down and use your weight to compress it, you can push it usually down and then get the pole in. And different systems, there are different connectors. This is probably just the most common style. I think if you're using Broncolor or some other more sophisticated softboxes, I think they have different mounts and different kind of systems for the poles, and the collapsing is actually more sophisticated and maybe simpler. And there are other styles that use an umbrella style system, and that's easier. But you run into an issue where you have a centerpiece sitting in the center of the light. Anyway, so put together a softbox. Yosh.